afternoon, everybody. As Vice Chair of the Denison Historic Preservation League and in the presence of a quorum, I call the Tuesday, August 16 meeting in order. Next item on the agenda, public comments. Do we have any citizens who've asked to speak? Thank you. Items for individual consideration. Hold a discussion and take action on appointing a chair and vice chair. Scream out.
Someone can volunteer.
So I'll be honest with you, I'm not sure what we're talking about. We want to appoint somebody right now as a chair and a vice chair?
We can do that, right?
So the ordinance requires that the chair and vice chair be appointed every January. And George Mason was the former chair and he resigned, so that puts Linda in the role of the chair until a new chair is appointed by the board.
But do we have to make that decision today?
Yeah, you need to have a chair and a vice chair. So right now we just have a vice chair. If Linda's gone, there's nobody else to run the meeting. So we need to appoint a chair and then a vice chair.
So do we make a motion?
You can just make a motion and on the chair.
Should we ask if they want it first?
How do you feel, Linda?
Me. I need it for my veto. I'm honored to be the chair of this commission, this board. I would be happy to do it.
Well, then I make that motion. Second.
There's a motion to appoint Linda Anderson as the chair of the Historic Preservation Board, and there's a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Next item on the agenda.
Hang on, you gotta
We gotta
appoint a vice chair.
Oh. In case I retire. Obviously, anybody sitting here would be a great vice chair. So,
I'm happy to if no one else wants to, but I don't want to take anybody's thunder.
paper, scissors.
I make a motion to appoint Melanie to vice chair.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to appoint Miss Melanie Truxell as vice chair of the Historic Preservation Board. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you for your leadership.
Well, I'm going to look into you,
Good
Chair
job, Melanie.
Anderson.
So do you sit here now and I move back down there?
Sit wherever.
Next item for individual consideration, receive a report, hold a discussion, and take action on a request to locate a spool in the courtyard at 110 South Fannin. Oh, excuse me. We actually have some too. Sorry, how's my leadership so far?
Fabulous.
Receive report, hold a discussion, and take action on the minutes from the regular Historic Preservation Board meeting on August the 2nd, 2022.
Motion to approve.
A second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Minutes are approved. Moving right along. Receive report, hold a discussion, and take action on a request to locate a spool in the courtyard at 110 South Fannin. Ms. Dow?
Okay, I apologize for missing last time. I was on vacation and that took priority.
You deserve vacation.
You do.
Yeah. And so the applicant would like a spa-like pool in their courtyard. There's a space between their building and on Fannin and their building on Chestnut. And it will be at the back of the property. They own both the buildings, and it would be from 3'6" to 3'9". That's the area. As you can see, if you look between the trees, there's a fence there now. And then a different kind of fence there at the front of the property. And these are the views that we have of the properties. I know that building department is going to require it to be so many feet away from this and that. Yeah, based on how deep it is, and they are aware of that. And the owner is accustomed to building in Denison. And then that will be the fence. I think that the fence that is there now is much more in line with what is approved for the historic district. And so we'll need to look at that, like that look.
We have seen an elevation with the chain link fence before. So what does that constitute as far as the sight line then from the street?
Well, maybe the applicant can answer. I requested that, and that's the additional, but I'll let the applicant discuss that. I think the front is the courtyard area. But
Yeah, the front is the courtyard that exists, and then the fence will be there to keep the pool inside of the fence that's, the entire property's fence, and between the two properties that we own, it's the 0 lot lines. That's a view from the back, um, and the fence running across there. We were talking about doing a wrought iron fence, and he's also looking at doing a privacy fence. That way the entire pool is privacy fence, and all you see from the road is still the courtyard that you see now from Fannin, and then the privacy fence completely blocks the pool. It already has a privacy fence around the backside that blocks it from the parking lot and blocks the courtyard on the backside. Yeah, this is all at the very back of the courtyard, and then the fence that you see in the front fence on that drawing is an existing fence that's an old 30s metal fencing that will continue to be there. And that section from the master suite of the apartment over to the side of my gas station is the one that we haven't for sure decided whether wrought iron or privacy. But my wife is leaning towards privacy because of privacy. But either one would work. But if
So
you're hanging
I'm
out.
sorry, but I still don't understand completely where the chain link fence would be. From the street,
There's no chain
from
link
the street,
fence at all. There's an existing chain link fence right now where that chain link fence
correct?
is, essentially.
You're talking about this fence right here, right, Jeff? This is,
Right, that's the view that's an artistic representation of that view.
I love that fence.
yeah.
This is
I
all
love that
staying
one.
there.
Thank you.
That is two fences. There's a fence in the
Gotcha.
front, and
Gotcha.
then a fence put over it, and then there's a fence behind it
Thank you.
because there's a dog run for Boardwalk, and his plaque is still hanging on. Boardwalk was Mayor Glidden's dog, and Boardwalk had his own space with his plaque on the front, and so it's about a 5-foot wide dog run with a doggy door from the inner fence to the outer fence, and anyway, so all of that's staying there because that's what is the coolest thing about the whole property.
All of
And,
us love that. It's
and then
beautiful.
there's where that arbor is, there's a fence that runs across there that's the same, and it's on the side also. It runs along the walkway that goes up the side of the business and the cottage part in the back. And all that stays the same. The pool is completely
mentioned last time, I think that's a significant consideration just because of the sort of attractive
Right,
nuisance
right.
quotient.
Yeah, I don't need it to be a public bathhouse.
No, one doesn't.
Yeah, because I think there's some clientele, you know.
One doesn't. Our purpose here today is to discuss and make a determination about a specific recommendation regarding the appropriateness, certificate of appropriateness is
Right.
what the ordinance asks us to do. So the Historic Preservation Board's responsibility is our charge, which is to maintain, protect, and enhance the beauty and historic quality of the district.
Right.
The question then becomes for us, are there issues that relate to the presence of this spool, given that, and given the fact as well that it is not in fact visible from the street?
Did we determine, I mean, we run all of the traps on codes as far as the ability to put it in downtown.
That's a separate part of the process, but I did ask those questions because we don't want to waste their time.
Exactly.
But
Right.
Mary and Betty both have approval parts of the process and can speak to that, but I did ask them.
Yeah, and the description of the case says that planning and building departments have been involved in the approval process, and obviously that involvement will carry on. A spool is in fact a pool, definitionally. So the permitting for construction would be in response to that. The ordinance that relate and the regulations that relate to the construction of a pool. And by my reading, they are in fact dependent as far as distances and setbacks upon the depth of the pool. But again, that aesthetic judgment is not, the aesthetic judgment is what is ours.
Responsibility.
And the responsibility to the district. The permitting for construction, inspection, et cetera, is other people's purpose.
And they will do a full review. in that
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yep.
But that's, what we are charged with today is recommending or denying a permit to carry on a certificate of appropriateness, is what the ordinances call for. And that's what I would recommend the motion be. So do I have a motion?
I recommend that we approve the spool at 110 Fannin.
I'll
I
second.
Call the question, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Jeff.
As long as we have a spool party, Jeff.
All the people in the church.
After the fence.
It's continuing.
After the fence. Do you all have what you need? Yeah. Got what you need? Thank you very much, thank you.
And my apologies, I did not put the next action on the slideshow, I missed that one. It is on your folder though.
Next item, receive a report and hold a discussion to clarify current policy for historic paint color options and accessibility for building owners.
Okay.
Dan?
So I understand that there were some questions, and since I wasn't here, I don't fully know what those were, but the accessibility, they are on our website. I know that there's more than one place on our website that you can get a certificate of appropriateness application, and we need to fix that. But we have all the steps in place on the website, best we can tell. And then also, we're doing a video to go with it that has the steps that you will take and kind of council's direction on the process. So it is two-part video. The mayor speaks, and then we've got a couple of building owners that speak on it. And that's just not ready yet, but it will be. So the paint colors they were derived from the previous paint colors, but you have to, like, they changed the names of them and everything like that. So you have to use the color. It's got 2 codes on it, like a Pantone color and something else. But it is, and there is a Lowe's color that you can take to the paint shop. And if they're diligent, they should be able to convert that to their brand.
And as far as the selection of colors, we've talked at sometimes about setting aside colors that are only appropriate for trim and accent. Have we proceeded on that?
Yes. The process that we went through back December, whenever, was that we took all the colors, we marked some off, and then we marked some that were for accent only.
So I brought this up a couple of weeks ago. I had pulled some colors off the computer that I was looking at, and I wanted to get the actual chips from Lowe's. So I went to Lowe's, and they've done a complete color reset.
Right.
And they've pulled many of those colors off. And it took me and the employee like 30 minutes to go through and try to find them because they're no longer in numerical order anymore. They're according to color charts. Yeah. And so some of the colors you can still get and some you cannot, he told me. So the colors have changed and their system has changed. He said some were no longer available. Some might still be able to be pulled up according to the numbers you were talking about, but that's what we brought up. You know, that's what brought this up a couple of weeks ago because I had actually been to Lowe's and they're not on their board anymore. So anybody that was looking at a color that went to Lowe's to try to find that color, it may not be there.
So that's the reason we started it or part of the reason we started it in the first place is because they periodically changed their colors.
Yeah.
But they left the numbers.
They change the name. They don't change the
Right.
configuration. And
Right,
generally,
exactly.
when the name changes, the mixture, I think it's 4
Right.
pigments, the mixture is still there, and that remains the same. It just has a
Yes.
new name. So there must be in the industry a way to access that color, not by name, but by having access to this is what the formula for it was.
Well, there is a Pantone color, which
Exactly.
they should be able to do. Now, I'm not sure that they can do that. I take a color, if I want this color right here,
Right.
I can take a sample of it to Sherwin-Williams, and they can take the sample and match it. So, you know, we did go through that process and ask them to do that as a test case, but it's not like tested 10 times to see if they came up with it. So, and, you know, to throw a kink in it, if somebody else has another color, they are welcome to bring that to y'all,
Right, right.
and you can decide on it.
It's not on the list?
It doesn't have to be on the list.
Okay.
That's just the colors we recommend they choose from.
Bam.
But it could be a totally separate
Okay.
that they would choose.
That was exactly what I was going to say, which is that basically those colors, because the vagaries of the name and maybe the formulas, are only suggestions, if you
Right.
will. Ultimately, the decision of appropriateness is going to be, no matter what the name of it is, the appropriateness of the color for the building, its use, and its location in the district.
Right.
And the only way we can know that, as we've said every single time, is if you see it on the surface.
Right.
Particularly if it's something that's portable, because we all know that a color in this room with fluorescent light is not the same color that it is on
Right.
the street.
And then a color on your screen or
Oh,
whatever.
the screen is out of the question.
Yeah. And then-
Absolutely out of the question.
And then a copy, it's all different.
Totally. So it seems to me then that the best that we can hope for with this color deck is that it offers guidance when people go to select colors, and that they ought to somehow look for something that's within that realm.
Right.
But we look at then the finished product and say, does it work? Does it work
Right.
amongst our other buildings?
Because
Is
just
it
because
appropriate?
it's on the list doesn't mean that it's appropriate for that.
Exactly. And there have been discussions too about we're getting too many of that color, whether it's appropriate or not.
Right.
Or we're getting too many buildings side by side that are sort of monochromatic, or is that what we want? So once again, it's going to be a case-by-case basis, and some of it will depend on what side of the street the building is on, and the scale of it. So once again, isn't that what it brings us back to?
And I would welcome input to the instructions. It's on the Main Street page. So you go to Main Street and then look at it. I would welcome input to any of that, because if it's not clear, then you can't understand it, most likely. The applicant can't. And so we've tried to be diligent in getting our instructions, but, don't proclaim perfectness.
We do know that the number of suggestions are fewer.
Yes.
I agree.
So this is not an action item, right?
No.
I suppose the,
Did I? Well, it's not vote. It
says
says
hold a discussion.
consider and hear a
just hold the
discussion.
discussion, clarify current policy. So are we of accord that that's about the best we can hope for? And that as far as what the website reflects and what people know in the community, what we're looking at is, once again, certificate of appropriateness. And
Yeah.
what we can offer is guidance, and more guidance if people would like it.
That's what we're supposed to do.
Exactly.
And I would request that you look at the instructions and see if it is clear for you.
So I have one more item I'd like to, not necessarily vote on, but we at one point talked, I believe it was 2 meetings ago, with regards to if there was a question that could be resolved by Donna going out and looking at a paint color on the side of a building rather than something in here, that we would give her the authority to do that so that we didn't hold up somebody waiting for another agenda, 2 weeks
Right.
later or a month later.
And the
Where did we
ordinance
go with
speaks to
that?
that clearly. I know it went like this and that, but in the ordinance, you have the power to go and make those choices and decisions.
So are we in a position now that we can give her that authority rather than table something for the next meeting? Or is there something, form of action that we need to do to get that approval?
Would it be in the wording?
Section 34 speaks to that.
I was gonna say, I think it's already in the ordinance, if it's like for like, or, I know the one you're talking about specifically was the person wanted to paint the building the same color,
Exactly.
and you gave her authority to verify that it was the same color.
Correct.
But it was specific to that item, it wasn't a blanket.
It's just for the same color, because we talked about the Whataburger
Right.
also.
Exactly.
Right.
We shouldn't have to have them
Routine
wait.
maintenance in the ordinance. Minor modifications, like-for-like replacement in color, painting, landscaping, signage, good to go. When it comes back to us, major modification, changes, windows, doors, awnings, new materials, substantial structural changes, or demolition. So there is in fact a lot that can be there, but that doesn't necessarily bring us to the certificate of appropriateness about colors. And to my mind, I trust you to say, this is one, since it is a change or new or whatever, that I want you to look at. I'd feel better about that, Bob.
No, I agree. I think that we're saying the same thing here, and I think unless we're doing, as you listed, major modifications, destruction, some of those, they need to be tabled and come back. And we've had those instances as
Right.
well.
So
But
you're-
if it's to verify a color or something like that,
But even when it's a new or different color, that Donna could do that, or it would need to come before the board?
I'm not sure I understand what you're asking. If it's,
Well,
If it's
just-
like for like, we have no issue.
Right.
correct.
We've had situations, you all know them, where people have said, well, it was okay across the street, womp womp. And in effect, that could happen over and over and over again. And I honestly don't know where the place is, where the tipping point is that you say, go for it, versus every time somebody's gonna paint a structure, we need to say, yes, that's appropriate. Quite frankly, I think the mayor would be more comfortable if every time anybody was gonna paint a structure, unless it was like for like.
I think if it's like for like, Donna's, we're gonna trust
Absolutely.
Donna.
Absolutely.
But if there's any questioning, I feel like we need to meet as a board to go over that. If it's, different color, different trim color, whatever, because people are gonna talk, and we need to be able to say, listen, we met as a board, and we go over things by case basis, so it's out there.
And I think that could definitionally, when you begin to paint a building, be a significant change that's beyond routine maintenance, in which case the ordinance brings it here.
You know what, we're saying the same thing.
Yeah.
We're all in agreement.
Yeah.
All right,
And when we get out that particular item, that particular variation, then we'll make the right decision as to whether or not it needs to come
Exactly.
back for the next
Exactly.
meeting, or that Donna can go out and.
bam. All right,
Okay,
does that work for everybody?
okay. Then we've got a staff update.
Are there staff updates?
Okay. So, this building next to the Independent Bank, that Casey Shires owns, the one in the middle, is ready to come before you. So we've got some drawings. You can't comment on it. Chris is gonna keep me in line. And you can't comment on it, but I'm just showing you what they're proposing. So I would, you're welcome to express privately. But that looks like a rough drawing, but it's the same brick. So if you look there, the building was painted recently when the SPACs owned it from McKinney. They painted the front and they painted the back.
Is this Serendipity's building?
Yes, yes. And so then unauthorized, they removed the back of the lower facade. And that's what it looks like now. And then it's what they're proposing for it to look like. The upstairs is set back, he said 30 feet, 60 feet, I don't know, but it's not in line. It's not all come to the zero lot line. The second story is not as deep as the first. So they're not proposing to change the second story. You can't see what the second story looked like in this picture. We had to grab it off Google because we didn't have handy a photo of what it looked like before. So I think they may gonna be explaining to you some of this.
Is this like one of those children's activity books? where you're supposed to-
That's what it looks like. And what we saw wasn't, didn't have that look, but anyway, you can't discuss it because it's not on the agenda, but I'm just letting you know that that will come back before us. I think they're ready, and it is with the same look that exists.
Donna, is this the one that you guys previously had them here for, where they went in and did unauthorized work on the back?
Right.
They did the
Exactly.
back of it. Okay, it's that building. Okay.
Now, is this the owner doing this, or is this the store owner doing this?
This is a contractor. So it's,
Was authorized by the owner of the building.
yes. Would you say that's accurate? They didn't have a building permit either,
Thanks,
so,
Donna.
yeah. Okay, so we'll, I think that's good, so.
So we can anticipate that at the next meeting?
Yes, I would say so.
Thank you. Anything else? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
Motion to adjourn, all in favor? Aye.